Hello and welcome back. This is Penny Sansevieri and Amy Cornell, and this is the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This Minisode we are going to talk about, is your book title a slam dunk or a sinking ship? And that sounds super ominous. But Amy came up with this idea, so I'm going to let her kind of lead this. But she and I both feel very, very strongly about book titles.
Yes, we have this conversation a lot, and the reason it sticks out to us is because, similar to book covers, it's really tricky when you are giving feedback to authors about either their book cover or their book title / subtitle, because we realize it's a very personal thing. There's a lot that goes into it a lot of times. It's kind of like having, well, now that's not fair. It's kind of like having somebody tell you, it's like, yeah, your kid's really not that cute. So hearing that, you go to somebody and having a professional book marketing person say, your book cover is just really not that strong. Like, we get a very wide range of fiery responses back to stuff like that. But sometimes they're actually really open, and sometimes people really get it and they go, I kind of knew that, but I just didn't know what to do about it, or where to go with it, which is a great attitude to have. But with book titles, it's very important that you, especially the subtitle. So the title is one thing. The subtitle is I think even more important sometimes, because we get a lot of books where, wouldn't you think, Penny, that, what would you call it, too vague or too mysterious or too, you're the only one at the party that understands?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, you don't want to be the only one at the party that gets the joke. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? It's the title has to fit the genre. It has to fit what the title, the only person that title should matter to is your reader. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes. No, that's a very good point. I was presented with a book recently, and the book title actually had a very nonfiction. The topic was divorce, actually. And I thought it was going to be a nonfiction book, some sort of self-help, or, maybe this was an attorney, who knows, something like that, because we've dealt with that before. And I got over to Amazon and I realized, I was like, okay, this definitely isn't set up like a self-help book or a nonfiction title. And the cover was hard to figure out, and even reading the description. And so anyway, I went away from this having no clue if this was a fiction book, a nonfiction book, who it was written for. And I will say the title was very confusing, because I'm sitting here going like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. And I'm trying really hard. This is my job to figure this out. I'm not even a buyer at this point. A buyer is going to spend, 1/100th of that amount of time trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about, and we talked about this in another minisode, is if you are confusing your reader, then you're losing your reader.
Yes, exactly. And this is where I love the fact that you can use the Amazon, the option to add a subtitle to I think what a lot of people get stuck on still, Penny, is that, that it has to match what's on the book. But in today's market of so much buying online, that's really it's not the same anymore. It's not like deciding what goes on your book because it's going to be sitting there in a bookstore and then you have no options to make any changes. The fabulous part about online retail now and Amazon is that it's this kind of constantly evolving retail space that you get to use, and using the subtitle option is just such a great way to test different ways to really pull in your market and see what's resonating with them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. The title is spending an additional amount of time agonizing over your title is not a bad use of your marketing time, actually. And I will tell you that for most of my books, for all of my books, I've spent a lot of time agonizing over titles.
Oh yeah.
If you get it wrong, I'm telling you. And early on in my, 20 years ago when I was publishing my first books, I used a title called Get Published Today. The problem was it made sense to me. And now when you hear this title, you're like, oh, Get Published Today, like I totally get it. 20 years ago when I published that book, the market was not, the independent publishing market was not what it is today at all. And people assumed that that book was about finding a traditional publisher when it really wasn't. It was about independent publishing. So it was the wrong title for the time that it was the right title necessarily for the book, but it was wrong for the audience, if that makes sense.
No. Oh, I think that's an excellent example, actually, and a very good point to make. Yeah.
So
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just think that was the, that we see it a lot. So we figured, and these are the kind of things we like to touch on these minisodes, are things that come across our virtual desks over and over again. So we figure, you know what, a lot of people are potentially struggling with this or questioning this or having this issue. And the book title versus subtitle and how flexible those can be and how creative you can get is something that I think a lot of authors forget to tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was a great episode, and I hope you guys are enjoying. I hope listeners are enjoying the minisodes. We'd love your feedback on them. We'd love your ideas for future minisodes as we continue to roll these out throughout the rest of the year. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Penny Sansbury and Amy Cornell, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.